communication. It is about connection. Okay? And the reality is that people are um, they lack communication because they lack connection. Okay, and so it's the opposite, which is that when we have connection, we have healthy communication. It's not a lack of communication that's bringing a lack of connection. It's a lack of connection that's bringing a lack of communication. And the thing about women is really the reason why we want to bring everything to a heavy discussion to communicate. We need to talk. It's time to talk. Is because really we just upset and we want to make ourselves feel better. But usually we wind up feeling worse because men don't want to always communicate and especially be forced to communicate about things that y'all probably both know that's going on. Let me tell you, I told a woman one time, um, she was trying to get her husband to paint the bedroom and make up. The baby was coming, and the baby was coming in like, I don't know, like 2 months. And so for a woman, that's an emergency. The baby will be here in 2 months. For a man, we got 2 whole months left. That's 60 days. Well, what's the rush, right? And so she was so upset about it because he was doing everything else, washing his car, doing all of this other stuff. And she was like, I need to talk to him because I said, didn't you already tell him that he needed to do the room? And she said, yeah, I told him he needs to do the room. I said, don't tell him again. I said, he already know. Why are you going to have another conversation with something that he already know? I said, here's what you need to do. I said, you need to, for the next 2 weeks, show as much appreciation to him. I don't care if he takes out the garbage, if he washes car, compliment him and say, man, you sure did wash that car real good. Whatever you got to do, compliment him. Don't ask him to do anything else with that room. And guess what? About maybe 7 days later, she sent me a picture of him on a ladder painting the room. Never asked him, never said anything. We don't realize. See, men and men connect in different ways. They want just as much emotional connection as we do. See, to compliment him and to affirm him was connecting with him. It was an emotional connection, and it encouraged and it influenced him to do something now that she had been wanting him to do. You don't need to always ask. You need to learn the right way to connect, okay? And the thing is, your relationship can fail even if you're doing nothing wrong if you don't understand the extent of why you're disconnected to each other. You have to understand the disconnection that you have if you don't have communication in your marriage. And the thing is that, again, men want communication. Listen, when men get divorced, first of all, they did a study and found out most men really don't want their wives to really change necessarily. They don't have a specific thing that they want them to change. Sometimes they just don't know what's missing, and a lot of times it is a disconnect. But men want to be connected to women, and the reason why I know this is because statistically, when men are divorced, they don't survive as long. They are at higher risk for alcoholism, suicide, mental and physical illness, unemployment, even car crashes. Yes, statistically. I researched it statistically. And they even lose friendships and relationships and all kind of stuff. And the reason why is because to them they're losing the meaning of purpose. And so they just go through the motions of living. And so when you come at a man trying to throw books at him that you read and trying to bring them to I don't know, a conference, a marriage conference, or trying to come with these female oriented attempts to get what you both want, it will fail. 80% of divorces say they grew apart. It is a connection issue. And, sometimes when you throw them books at them, like, you need to read this, all that men is going to think is that this is another book trying to make a man become a woman in order to have a good relationship. And it just don't work like that. And so the best place to get back to is to understand what connection you guys lost, and to understand how to get that connection back. Not another honey, we need to talk. They don't operate like that. And guess what? Quite frankly, if we're being honest, if you ever said that, I know you married women. When you say stuff like that to your husband, he automatically gets like a defensive state. Like, like when it ain't never enough. It ain't, he's going to be defensive. And because that's not the key. Again, the communication problem comes from the connection issue. And people don't have communication problems outside of their connection issues. And so you got to understand where the root cause of that is. And so, no more communication is the key. Connection is the key. And at this point, social media makes us more and more disconnected. We're so wired up on social media all day. We can't even connect. You need to lean in and you need to do some meaningful, intentional things. Pay attention to your man and know what it is that he has need of. All right. Number four, relationships and marriages solve loneliness. Again,
Nope.
they do not solve your loneliness. They're going to reveal you. They're not going to bring you happiness. Marriage is not going to bring you happiness if you're not already happy yourself. As a matter of fact, I want you to know, marriage is going to bring you conflict. It's going to bring you all kind of problems. And if you're not prepared to go to war, then you're not prepared for marriage. It is a covenant, not a contract. Okay? You got to give up all your rights and everything. You got to walk in mercy. You got to walk in forgiveness. You got to do all this stuff. And a lot of people think, okay, this is going to solve my loneliness. I'm so lonely. I need a man. Nope, it's not. It's going to actually, if you are a lonely, miserable woman, then it's going to actually make you a worse woman than you already are. Okay? So get ready for all the conflicts. Solve your loneliness and your depression issues before you get married, because it is going to be a problem. And if you are already married, stop trying to make him fix your loneliness. That's just too much for a man to do. And then you're going to judge him and you're going to be upset at him because he can't fix your loneliness. And it's really unfair. And again, you become a pest almost. I promise, I couldn't deal with it. I could not deal with someone who I have to alter my life, my purpose, my energy, all of that to try to make you not lonely. You're going to have to deal with this on your own. Again, this is about singleness. And a man can be there as much as he can be there. Yes, it's through good, through bad, through ugly, and all of that. But I'm just telling you, it's going to wear him out. And so you have to deal with that. Ladies, just know that marriage will not solve your loneliness. Let me keep going because I got a few more I got to get through. Okay, so number five, marriage should be consumed with expectations. And wrong. You go ahead and you get in a marriage and you tell this man, I expect you to do this. I expect you to do that. I expect this and that and that and that. Nope. Marriage is not about expectations. Marriage is about desires. Marriage is about perpetual mercy, is what it's about. And I'm gonna explain to you why marriage cannot be based on expectations. Because expectations bring contracts. And you are not, again, in a contract when you marry. You are in a covenant. And when you think of a contract, think of this. Let's just see, how do we respond to stuff like this? You go to the car dealership, you buy a car, and you spend your money, and they give you these rules. You got to pay, you got to do this, that, and you give them money every month. Let me ask you this. Do they ever send you a thank you letter when you paying your dues? You know what? They expect you to pay, and you expect to keep the car. You expect, or if you got a landlord, you expect whatever the landlord's part of the contract is. But guess what? Does anybody really thank each other? Are you getting a thank you letter from your contract from your landlord that you paid your rent, or from the bank? No, because they expect you to do it. So guess what? When you have a relationship built on expectations, first of all, if you don't do it, I'm mad at you. And if you do it, I don't thank you. Why? Because I expect you to do this. It leaves no room for humanity whatsoever. And if you are in a relationship where it's full of expectations and you get mad every time he don't do what you say, then you gonna have a rough time. Okay. I mean, I've had to struggle with that also. I remember he would take the garbage out, and I expect him to take all the garbage out, and I expect him to clean the whole garage out and not leave nothing behind. And I remember every time I would go to the garage, I'm like, why does he always leave something? Like he does the bare minimum when he's taking his garbage out. And so one day I was going to take a picture and just kind of show him how much garbage he was leaving behind. And, God convicted me from it and said, well, whatever mistake he make, why don't you just cover it? Why don't you just take the rest out? What is the real big deal? You're at home. You're here. He was rushing out for work, having to do it. And see, it takes a moment to stop and pause and to think about that. And I just decided, well, I can just tell him what I desire. And so now we trade our expectations for desires, because what desires does is it leaves room for error, and it leaves room for you to still love him even if he don't do what you want him to do. And so when I did that, immediately I felt like I automatically started to thank him more for taking out the garbage, even if he left some. And I just so happy. I sang my little happy dance while I took the rest of the garbage out. Like I'm covering him. I got him. He forgot, but he going to work. He a good man. He take care of the kids. He provide for the household. I'm happy. I'm good. And so you just got to change your whole mindset about it. But guess what? As I started to thank him and just say, hey, I appreciate it. Oh my God, thank you so much for taking out the garbage. It was so much. Ooh, I'm happy. I'm not man. Just building them up, just taking out the garbage. I noticed that he started to do better and better and better with it. And so we just got to understand that we got to put the expectations aside. All right, number 6. Here's a good one. God chooses your mate. Uh-oh. God told me to marry you. No, 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 no. See, I had some people tell me God told me that I was their wife too. And was I their wife? I'm like, how I get all these men talking about I'm their wife? Somebody got to be wrong, right? No. See, listen. God does not choose your mate, okay? God doesn't choose for you. Ultimately, man should choose. And Adam chose Eve. God paraded her. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a part or a hand in it, but God is not going to make somebody marry. He's not going to force them to marry, because then he robs you of the power of choice, and then you got the right to blame him for your problems. And I know a lot of women who felt like God told them to marry this person. I don't want to call it a loser or anything, but marry a guy that's just like not even somebody they shouldn't even be marrying, and then you make him take responsibility for your bad choices. No, he's giving you a brain to be intelligent, billions of cells. He's giving you a mind to analyze, to interpret, to investigate, to calculate. You can make your choice based upon wisdom, okay? And I'm not saying God doesn't have anything to do with it. I prayed, and I felt like I was following God-spirited advice. And so it's not that I'm saying leave God out. You don't want to do that, because you'll be in destruction also. But I am saying he doesn't choose your mate. And I'm going to tell you, when I have men come to me and I ask him, why are you marrying her? When he say, God told me, no, that ain't good enough. I'm going to ask him, what are you committing to do? Okay? Because are you okay with marrying her? Are you okay with being a father? Or do you feel like you got to sacrifice? Because some men feel like I'm sacrificing because God told me to do. No, God don't want you marrying nobody you think is ugly. God don't want you marrying nobody you're not attracted to. Why is he going to put you in why would he put you in a situation like that when he made men to be visual and to like what they see and to have attraction and stuff? That is not God. Stop saying that God is making you do something and that you're sacrificing, or that God told me to marry this man in jail. Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't with the God said stuff. Again, I'm not saying that God can't be involved. I'm not even saying that God can't tell, can't say to the man, this is who you, but at some point, you're making this decision, not God. God is not at that altar. He's not up there. I mean, he's there, but he's not like standing there saying those words to your woman. And so, women, if somebody come up to you and say, God said, no, 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 that ain't good enough. What do you want? What do you desire? Do you want me? Do you desire to provide, to protect, to have the role that you're going to play in my life? Because if you don't, and this is all God said, then if I'm not the wife that you eventually want me to turn out to be, then you're going to be blaming God, and then you probably will wind up leaving at some point, like thinking that maybe you messed up or you got it wrong. So I'm just saying, let's be careful with that. And yes, I have heard women say that God told them to marry men in jail. And I'm thinking to myself, how can God tell you to marry a man that is not even tested to see if he can provide for you? Why do you want to marry a man in jail and wait for him for 10 years and go to jail and marry him and wait for, I'm not, okay, there's some supernatural things. I'm not saying there's not a great story out there about it. Just like I have a great story where I got engaged in 4 months, I still wouldn't necessarily advocate for somebody to get married in 4 months. So I'm not saying, but I'm just talking in general. In general, usually that's a bad idea, and usually it's probably not God. All right. And number 7. All right, this the last minute, and then I'll do a couple of do's and don'ts, and then we're gonna do some questions. All right, because I'm not gonna get through everything. I had a lot more for you, but I'm just not gonna get through it. All right, so number 7, the foundation of your marriage is not love. Uh-oh.
It's not.
Does a marriage involve love? And
No.
should it? Absolutely.
We
But
hope
guess
we-
what the foundation of your
we-
marriage is? It is your vows. And that's why it's better not to make one than to make one and break one. I have known people who got up the next day and said, I think I married the wrong person. And I say, was that her on the altar when you made the vows? And it's like, yeah, that was her. I was like, oh, you ain't married the wrong person. You married exactly the person that you married to. And unfortunately, because marriage is not about your vows and your feelings, about your love and your feelings right now, it's about your vows. You've already made that commitment. You've already set that covenant in place. So here is the wisdom for single people. The wisdom for single people is, if you marry a heathen, a lopsided idiot thug, if you men marry Jezebel, or you marry a man that wants you to pay all his bills while you're dating, wants you to sign contracts for him to get new cars and be his sugar mama and stuff, that's who you're going to get. He's not going to change once you get married. You got to understand, your vows are the foundation of your marriage, and when you wake up and realize that you miss sugar mama daddy, then that's what you got right now. And and people ignore the signs, and they become miserable after marriage, but they've already said the vows. And unfortunately, marriage is not something you just should be just jumping out of because you feel like you married the wrong person. It's a covenant. You got to work yourself through it. That's why it's important, I think, for people to even share their divorce stories and their horror stories, so that people can be more mindful of stuff like this. Because again, if you fall out of love, that is not a real reason to get divorced. Now, it happens. People do say we grew apart and we're not in love anymore and stuff, but it's really not a real reason to get divorced. And so I think we should just make sure that we're paying closer attention to the signs that we have before we get married. Because when you get up there, your vows are for better, for worse, to death do us part, and you really should be taking those vows very seriously. And so understand this. Now, I'm gonna tell you, now this is gonna be controversial because the do's and don'ts that involve the myths, even as it pertains to love, I know that love is not the foundation. Love is included in the marriage, and it's gonna make for a very great marriage if you do choose to love. But here's what I tell you, single people: don't fall in love when you are dating. Don't do it. Love is not limited to a feeling. It is an act of will. It is a decision. And guess what? It ain't always fun. And you got to know that. And if you think that falling in love is a requirement, for you to get married, you are dreadfully wrong. Because if you fall in love, you can fall out of love. And quite frankly, most people who are in love, they're in la la paradise land, thinking about holding hands in the park and walking on the sand and the beach in the Bahamas together on the honeymoon. And let me tell you, that story, that dream ends real quick when you wake up that next morning. Okay, you got real life to deal with. And so when women fall all in love, they don't see that he still live with his mama. He ain't got no money. He ain't got the audacity to be able to take. He's not impressive. He doesn't do anything that's showing you that he's going to be a great husband. And so you got to make sure that you guard your emotions. And then you got to also know that, again, people fall in and out of love. And if you let a lack of feeling of love dictate your commitment, then it's going to be a bad marriage, okay? And it's gonna be very hard for you. You cannot base love based on what somebody deserves or even based on performance. And if you can't learn to love a person that's not worth loving, you're going to end up in divorce. And so the type of love that people think in dating, they think that's the same kind of love that keeps the marriage going, and it's not. That kind of love is la la land love. The love that you have in a marriage is the love that when things go wrong, sometimes when men step outside of the marriage in adultery, and it's not, it's just a symptom of what's happening within the marriage, and you got to look at yourself and see what place you took in the state of the marriage. And you got to do all of these things, and you have disagreements and arguments, and he's different and you're different, and things are not working out, and you still choose. That's the real type of love. And you choose to work it out, and you choose to press through, and you choose to change yourself. You choose to lay down your rights for a relationship and for restoration. That's the real kind of love that we're talking about. And so if you don't know what you're getting yourself into from the beginning, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. When you're looking at that man, when you're making them vows, you better have your eyes wide open, okay? And guess what? Being in la la land in love, in paradise land that don't exist, you ain't gonna be able to see some things about the person that you're about to wake up with the next morning. Okay? Don't fall in love while you're dating. Number two, do what works for you. In every marriage, there are some things that work, some things that don't. And don't base what's going to work for your marriage based on somebody else's. I know me and my husband, there's some things that just work for us. Like, for example, I don't like driving in the same car as him. I don't care. Sometimes if we're going 10 minutes away, sometimes I opt out of driving with him. Why? Because all of our arguments, I noticed in the first couple of years, happened in the car. And so I got smart, and it was my foolishness somewhere in there too, because I didn't have the right wisdom and timing with my communication with him and the things that I would bring up, especially right before he preached. And so even to guard myself and place a boundary around myself, I started to drive a separate car, and I don't like road rage, and I don't like environments of hostility. And my husband has road rage, and I just can't. And I have to say something. I'm like, you're driving, and the other person who you're trying to cut over is an idiot, and then the person who you're trying to cut is an idiot, and then the person who's trying to cut you is also an idiot. So I'm like, when do you become the idiot? It's like, and he just yelling and and I'm like, why are you name calling? And then he get mad at me. What did you do in my car? Don't And it's so much animosity that I'm like, I just can't do it. And guess what? We don't have far as many arguments now because I don't really drive with him, and it works for us. Whatever, if people think you should be in the same car, nope. We most of the time aren't, unless we're going on a date. Let me give you a couple of more, and then I gotta end it because I didn't want to go over an hour, even though I had a lot to cover. And I'll run through these really quickly. Don't become unequally yoked. A few things to explain to you is that you got to understand your value system on kids, finances, in-laws, and religion. And if you, for example, if he's a mama's boy and he's gonna run back to his mama, and mama got to be all in your business, and you can kind of tell that strange fire between a son and the mom, almost like I'm never going to be good enough up to the standard of his mom. You better recognize that, because it's not going to change, and then mama going to turn on you because you get in the way of her and her perverted relationship with her son. And so a mama who not willing to let her son go, you better watch out for stuff like that. Number questions and take notes, get history when you are dating. I did the same thing. Number five, and because like I said, I got to get through this. Don't shame a man. Don't shame a man. Okay, exclude him from important decisions. Don't come home talking about some I planned for me and you to go out with to my cousin's birthday party. No. You didn't even ask him about it. Men don't like stuff like that. Don't rob him of the opportunity to help you. You know, don't be carried a bag and you mad at him because maybe he ain't offering it instead of just helping you. Like, don't bother. I got this all by myself. Stuff like that will ruin relationships. Don't belittle his work and say, you know, what you've been doing all day because I've been with these kids and I've been. Da, 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 da. Don't question his judgments. Don't make unrealistic demands on him. If he's been doing this and that, don't come throwing a baby at him after he done washed the car, went to work, ran some errands for you. You know, just don't be unrealistic. Don't use harsh tones. Don't roll your eyes. Give him a look. Be sarcastic. Criticize him in front of other people. Those are wisdom pieces that you need to know. Do keep up with yourself also. This is a do for you. Keep up with yourself. Make sure you're healthy. Make sure you're in the gym. Make sure your hygiene is good. Make sure you're brushing your teeth. I mean, these are real situations that happen. Don't wake up in the morning blowing your hot breath on nobody. I'm sorry. You know, you got to make sure you're clean and you're doing what you need to do to be presentable. And then the last thing I'll say is just honor his routine. Honoring a man's quiet time in his routine is just as good for him as a deep conversation for us. And so, you know, I get that sometimes men do leave women alone, and it's the worst thing they can do is leave them alone in their dreams, their fears, leave them alone with the kids, their competencies, and then you want to, you know, demand a huge wave of emotions from him. And it just doesn't always work like that. You know, men are routine based, and if you change their routine, then you break their focus. And this is why men are not multitask. They're not multitask individuals like women. If their routine is broken, like you throw the kids on them when they got something to focus, their response is, "What am I supposed to do with them?" You know, like they just act helpless, and it's just that's how men are because they have a routine. I just had a birthday little gathering for my daughter, and I'm trying to pay for the stuff, and I'm asking. He had the kids, and I'm like, "Hey, can you go and order some of the food for the, you know?" And he was just like helpless, like, "Well, I don't know what to do." You know, it's just like I'm like, oh, you know. But I'm okay with it because I understand men, they're not multitask because he had the three kids there and I'm paying for this stuff. He was distracted. He can't multitask with the kids. And that's why men play with kids more than women do. Because we're multitasking. We're gonna find you go sit down, gotta clean this house up. Go sit go read the book, go put the iPad or something real quick because I got like five different things to do. Whereas men, if they're gonna be with their kids, usually they ain't gonna really have much to do. They're just gonna be, because if they got something to do, they're gonna be figuring out like, what am I supposed to do? Other than that, they're gonna be planning, they're gonna be interacting with the kids because they're very differently. But these are all just wisdom pieces so that you can understand that men are just not like us. I had so much more, but I cannot give it to you right now. I mean, I had so much more, but I can't give it to you. So I want to present to you one of my books that me and my husband worked on. And I want to let you know that, and I'm going to give you the link for it so that you can go because I did share a lot of other stuff there that I didn't share on here. And so, even though I have more on here also, but I did put a lot, we took some time out and we wrote a book together about over a year ago. We wrote a book together, and I really want you to dive into it because it is a lot of principles in the book, and it's called "What He or She Will Never Tell You: The Raw Truth About Love, Sex, and Relationships." And so we're very honest in the book with laying down certain things that maybe your spouse or man or woman in a relationship won't really tell you, but we are very raw about it. We're very real about it, and we lay out some principles in that book. And the link is bit.ly /Love Secrets 3. bit.ly/love secrets 3. And you can get some more information there concerning relationships. Invest in yourself, continue to learn and to understand one another, dwell according to knowledge with one another so you can have a successful and a healthy relationship. And you can start reversing some of these tensions that you may experience between the relationships between men and women. So please get the book, invest in yourself. It's not much money at all. And I do this because a lot of people, when I do these webinars, they still want more, or they want something to be able to go back to really dive in and learn more about the topic that I'm talking about. So I will continually try to provide that for you. But again, bit.ly/love secrets number 3. All right, let me take some questions, and I hope this was valuable information to you. And it's good to me. I love men. I love how God created them. I love my man. I want to honor my man and say he is an amazing man. And I actually have no problem serving him or doing anything for him. And I will be honest and tell y'all, me and my husband don't really have a lot of disagreements, or we don't have arguments, because nothing really bothers me, I guess. I don't know. Nothing really bothers me much because I've learned to embrace my role, and I learned to embrace the things that I need to do as a wife to make my marriage successful. All right. And we do have some disagreements, but they are very far few and in between. Ask him if you don't believe me. We just don't. We just really pretty even keel. I let him live his life and do what he needs to do and work, and I honor him, I affirm him, I serve him, I help him, I continue to build myself as an individual, and he does the same for me. And we make each other better. And so I love him very, very, very much. And it's a love that is an act of a will, but I'm also in love, by the way. All right, so because you can do that too, as long as you don't lose focus. All right,